Okay, so good morning. It's lovely to have you all here. We're here with Mr. Warfield, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the multiplication times tables check in year four and what that means for pupils who are in year three and year four as they prepare for themselves to be really confident with their number and really kind of set up to move through Key Stage 2 with those solid number facts. So I'll hand over to Mr. Warfield. Oh, sorry, just really briefly to say, sorry. You're very welcome to keep your cameras off because we're recording this, save your faces popping up on the webinar. But if you have any questions, either put them in the chat or we'll have space for questions at the end.
Slides.
No. Do you want me to go straight to the,
Yes,
the slides? Okay.
So, good morning, everyone. As Mr. Hill just said, thank you for joining us this morning on our webinar. So today we're going to be focusing on one of the most important building blocks of maths, which is times tables. We're going to talk about some of the things that we do at school to support the children with their times tables, what the multiplication check in year four looks like, and some of the things that you can do at home to help them feel confident and fluent as well. So, I think it's really important to say everything about why times tables matter and sort of why the government kind of decided to bring in the check a few years ago now. Times tables are the foundation for so much of what children do in maths. And once children know them fluently, it frees up their brain to focus on more complex ideas. If you sort of have a look at the pyramids that's sort of on the screen, the children need that fluency in facts, procedures and concepts before they can reason, before they can problem solve. If they haven't got the fluency in their times tables and number facts, they're going to find it so much harder to reason and problem solve and sort of apply their number work to what they're doing. So like if you imagine if you've got a tricky word problem and you're trying to solve 96 divided by 8 or 3/4 of 32. If you're still working out your 8 times table, if you're still using your fingers, if you're having to draw groups of 8 in your book or on your paper, if you haven't got that instant recall, everything's going to take longer, the problem's going to feel harder, it's going to feel really just not accessible. So we want the children to be really fluent and really quick with their times tables because it allows them to think mathematically. It allows them to really problem solve straight away, with getting rid of those barriers to number and just really helping them to access lots of different challenges and lots of different problems. There's lots of different research that shows that automatic recall of multiplication facts supports success in high level maths, in mental arithmetic and problem solving. So, in order for children in Key Stage 2 to really access the maths curriculum confidently, we really need them to be fluent in their times tables facts. And in the classroom, we noticed that confidence times tables knowledge helps children. It helps them to spot patterns and connections. They work more accurately. And again, like I said, they feel more confident in tackling trickier problems, and we really don't want children to be anxious. And when they're problem solving maths, we want them to be really confident, and being able to access times tables instantly really supports them with that. And that's the reason why the government brought in the times table check a few years ago now. So there we go. It takes place nationally for all year four pupils in the country in June, and it's a short online assessment that checks if children can recall their facts fluently. It's short. It takes about 5 minutes in total for each child. They have 25 questions to answer. I think what's really important to know is that they only have 6 seconds per question. So speed and having instant recall is really important. I myself, if I'm being honest, as a child, times tables were not something that came naturally to me, and I didn't have that instant recall. And as an adult, I wish as a child I had that instant recall because it because it's so important to help access maths. And I think only having 6 seconds per question, it really tests whether the children have got that instant recall and that speed, because there's no time for them to get their fingers out, there's no time for them to start at a number in their head and count on. It checks their fluency. The questions are random and cover times tables from 2 to 12. So, there's a real mix in there. There's some questions that are straightforward, like 2 times 10, but then you'll also have your trickier tables, your sixes, your sevens, your eights, and your 12s in there as well. Um, Results are shared with the school, but they're not published nationally. So, it's not like it's not like it's not like SATs tests where there's sort of a pass mark, a mark where the children are at an expected level or working above an expected level at a greater depth level. It's really there so that as a school we can see which facts the children still need to practice, and just to really help them have that instant recall to help them gain fluency with their number. So we can see sort of how we can support the children best with their times tables. And we do our best to make sure it feels as normal as possible. The children get plenty of practice with the formats. In year three and year four, they practice pretty much every day a multiplication check that's in a similar format. So we want them to feel relaxed and confident. So it's nothing scary. It's just part of their times tables practice. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about how we teach times tables at school before thinking about some of the things that you can do at home. So in year three and year four, we practice daily in short, fun bursts. In year four, every morning, the children do a sound check on Times Tables Rockstars, and the sound check is designed to mimic the Times Table check. It looks exactly the same. It's got the same amount of time, the same sorts of questions. So every day in year four, the children are practicing the check to help them get confident and comfortable, and so they know the format really well. Um, we also, as part of our maths curriculum, we focus on patterns and relationships. Like, for example, how the twos link to the fours, how the fours link to the eights, how the threes, sixes, and nines all link together. Um, any patterns that we can see, like there's lots of different patterns, for example, with the 9 times table that really make that accessible to children. Because we want the children not to just memorize, but we want that fluency to come from understanding. So we want them to see multiplication as repeated addition, arrays, grouping, so that they've really got that secure foundations before they move to rapid recall.
If I can just jump in at this point, one of the things, if I give a bit of an example of how we're really building those sort of foundational skills, I was in year five the other day and the children were doing some work where they were looking at prime numbers and I had to work out whether some of the question, the numbers along the list were prime numbers or not. And because they were quite confident with their times tables facts, they were able to go through and say, oh, well, okay, that one ends in a five. So that's got to be either, if it's a five or a zero, it's got to be in the 5 times table. So that one can't be a prime number. And then they were going through the patterns. They had some tricks for working out if any numbers were in the 3 times tables. I think they added the digits together to work out if it was then divisible by it. And they're like, okay, so we've got some strategies there. And because they're starting to spot those patterns, oh, it's an even number. So that means it must be divisible by 2. It doesn't matter if it's in the 2 tables, the 4 tables, the 8 tables, the 16s, or the 32 tables. It doesn't really matter because it's still going to be even. And so it's still going to be divisible. And it just, because they had that solid knowledge, it meant they could access that higher order question that was available. Thank you, sir. Sorry
Yeah,
for
no worries. And again, just what Matilda said, that's something that that they start in key stage one, like in year two at the moment. Like the children are practicing counting in multiples and looking for those patterns and looking for what makes a multiple a multiple. Um, so this sort of these supports and this approach, we really want to help children who are less confident with their number and with their times tables. We want to help them to make connections, so that they've got a real secure foundation before, so that they're able to have that rapid recall. So alongside this at home, there's lots of different things that you can do. I know parents really often ask, what's the best way to help at home? I think the good news is that it's really little and often really works. So there's some practical tips here. 5 minutes a day is enough. I think we don't want times tables to become a chore or something that the children think, oh, not again. Just a quick 5 minutes is enough daily, just to sort of to help them, just to help sort of reactivate that memory in their head without it being too long or too arduous. Practicing the car, walking to school, or at dinner times. There's lots of different things that you can use. There's songs, flashcards, all the children have got a Times Tables Rockstars login, and like I said, year three and year four have access to that daily. But again, supporting that up, following that at home is really helpful as well.
I'll jump in there because, like yourselves, I've got a child in year three at the moment, and I don't know about you, but we find that kind of balance of he loves to be on his tablet. He wants to have some tablet time, and we always try to kind of limit and mitigate that time. And he's brilliant at doing other things as well. But actually, for me as a parent, it takes away a little bit of that guilt if I'm saying, okay, go on, you can go and have 15 minutes, but we're going to go on Times Tables Rockstars today. So he's still loving it because he's playing games and he feels like he's having that tablet time. And then alongside that, it's really kind of developing his math skills and setting him up for his learning down the line. So I think it's quite nice to get that easy win where, as a parent, it does alleviate some of that guilt that I think we all feel when children are on screens. But actually, it's for a really positive reason. They're getting something really good out of it, and it's a way that, yeah, you can just it's no extra work for yourselves in those busy lives in busy households. And actually, if anything, it takes a bit of a pressure off because they're so engrossed in it. It's so exciting and lovely for them, and they're doing really great things with it. So on that, Mr. Warfield, because I think you mentioned this a little bit. It's it's not. I think when this check was brought in, they intentionally chose to talk about it being a check rather than a test, and how it wasn't supposed to be like a high stakes thing. It wasn't something that was designed to be stressful for the children. Do you want to? I know you've spoken about this a little bit. Do you want to just reiterate the steps that we take as a school so that when they go through the experience, it's something that they're used to and comfortable and feels very much like daily practice. So it's not a worrying and stressful thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think, like I already said, so we talked about sort of Times Tables Rockstars. So on Times Tables Rockstars app, there's lots of different activities. One of the activities on there, is called a sound check. Um, I think like it's a rockier way of saying multiplication check. And on the sound check, it looks exactly the same as what the real check looks like. The same sort of keypad, the same sort of questions, the same amount of time. So we in year four, the children do a sound check every single day. It's the first thing they do when they come into school, so that they're really familiar with it. They do it independently. Um, they do their sound check that every day, and also the teacher can sort of track their progress and sort of monitor what their sticky tables are, where they need a little bit of practice, so that the teacher can then kind of give them a bit of extra support and a bit of extra intervention.
So because it's such a kind of an ingrained part of daily life, it doesn't feel like a big scary deal. Because and they do the actual check on the tablets as well, don't they?
Yes.
So actually I think they practice closer to the time. They practice on the government site as well. So
Yeah.
again, they're quite used to it. And it's I think for us from a like a well-being perspective, it's really important that it's not overwhelming or it's not uncomfortable for the children. So just making it just like the normal fun challenges that they have has a really positive impact.
I think alongside that, a lot of our interventions are we try and sort of teach them speed and teach them recall in a way that's fun and exciting. Like the children never feel pressured. It's always, through games, through different activities. It's all about trying to get that speed in a way that's fun and engaging, but avoiding that pressure and that kind of mass anxiety around number as well. Um, so to sort of support that at home, using timetables rock stars at home, a sound check for you is a really great way to see, if you watch your child do the soundtrack, then you sound check, then you can sort of see the process and see how they what it looks like, how the children access it, and so you can see what's happening. But also the other games, and they're pretty much all of the games on Rockstars are, they're really designed to build up speed. And again, the children love it because they're gaining coins, and
They can kind of develop their characters as well, can't
yeah.
they? So it's like they get credits for it they're able to use. I've known Hit the Button for ages. I really like that as a game.
Yeah, so Hit the Button is a game that, if you Google it, you'll find it. Again, that's about speed. There's challenges, and again, the children kind of see how many times tables facts they can answer in a certain amount of time. Super Movers from the BBC is it's a great resource. They've got lots of different videos on there. It's about songs and movements and dancing, and like the timetable ones, it's that they're quite catchy songs. There's sort of there's a lot of football mascots on there as well that the boys enjoy sort of getting
I
involved
think it's
with.
nice because I've often used some of the YouTube videos to go through times table songs. You're always a bit hesitant when you put a YouTube video on how kind of reliable the content's going to be. So to know that someone like the BBC have got those videos as well, that you can just relax that the children are using them without any worries, I think is really reassuring.
And I think they're British as well. I think some of the
Yeah,
some of the ones on YouTube can be a bit, yeah,
Americanized
a
in
bit
that content.
Americanized and that,
Yeah.
whereas like the Super Mover ones, like I said, they're football mascots or sort of CBBC characters. So the children find them really engaging. Just sort of to go alongside that, there's the White Rose. We use White Rose for our maths curriculum. They have a 1 minutes maths app, where the children can do a challenge in a minute. So again, short bursts to practice their fluency. And then sort of flashcards, dice, card games, even just, getting the children to, in school sometimes the children will roll a dice twice and multiply the two numbers together as fast as they can, just to kind of see. Same with playing cards. If they turn over two playing cards, can they multiply the numbers together? Can they make a multiplication calculation? Could they make a division calculation with those numbers? Just those sorts of just fun sort of different ways to sort of develop their times table knowledge in a way that's again, there's no pressure, there's sort of no anxiety around it. We really want the children to sort of work on their speed and they're having that instant recall, but in a way that they feel confident with.
Mr. Wolford, you touched on division there. That was one of the questions that came through from parents who asked us to include in the webinar. Was in the test, are they going to be expected to know the multiplication facts or the correlating division facts as well? Is it just multiplication?
So in the actual test, it's just multiplication, but like there's a lot of research and that says that knowing the division really supports that as well. I know in Rockstars outside of the sound check, they are asked sort of some of the activities and games do have division facts as well. And just having that division again, I know earlier I talked about we want the children to sort of understand structures and how how times tables works, sort of using visual supports, sort of having and the patterns, the relationships, understanding the division really does support that and support children with that. But yeah, like it won't be part of the multiplication check,
Great, thank you.
but it is helpful to help. It is really helpful when getting the children to be secure with their fluency. So just to finish, just to, I think I've sort of hit on this as already, but for different children become more confident at different times. We want we know that times table fluency develops over time. As a school, the children sort of start counting in multiples from reception, and then that sort of builds up until year four. It is a marathon, not a sprint, and we we've got a sort of a times table pathway that helps the children to sort of gain their understand times table throughout, from reception onwards. But alongside that, we know that each child progresses at their own pace. Some children see those patterns straight away. Some children get that recall straight away, whereas others it will take a bit longer, and that's fine. The multiplication check is, it's just a snapshot. It's not something to worry about, like Ms. Till said earlier. Like, it's not a test; it is a check. And when we're teaching times tables, like I know I said earlier, I was not confident with my times tables at school. And that's what we really want to build. We want to build confidence, resilience, and we want a positive sort of attitude towards times tables and maths. So, and that's why we say, like, with your support at home, with our teaching school, like we want our child to feel ready, not your children, sorry, to feel ready, not just for the check,
They're ours as well. They'll have them. Yeah.
but for all the maths that follows, and so that they're confident with applying it.
That's really helpful. So thank you very much. I've got another couple of questions that people have sent through, but I just want to throw out to the room if anyone is anything that Miss Warfield went through. I think it was really comprehensive. But if any questions jumped out? That's okay. There might be something coming through the chat there, but I'm going to pick through a couple that were sent separately as well. So one of the parents was asking about the results of the check. Do parents get the results? Because it's more of a check. It's not something that's shared as much. Is that right?
I think so. Last year, yeah, I think the parents do get the result.
Okay. Yeah.
But in terms of like a result, you just get the score,
So it's
like
just
the
a number, and how many questions is it they do again?
25.
25. So you'll get they got 22 or they got 24 on that
Yeah,
occasion.
so
Okay.
it's not like other things where there's a pass mark. It's like,
Okay.
for example, like the phonics screening check in year one, there's a magic number that's sort of the pass mark every year that, they hit that to have passed. The multiplication check doesn't have that sort of pass or fail. It just sort of tests how many children, how many questions they answer in the time. So you do get a score, but you don't get there's not a pass mark that goes alongside it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I've got another question here where a parent's just asking when is it that they will be doing the check?
So June,
It's in June. So they've
there's,
got all the way through this year and then
yeah,
June in year four after May half term.
yes, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And that do parents need to do anything particular around that time, or does that just happen throughout the school day?
So it'll just, yeah, so the check will happen throughout the school day. Like the children will just sort of be sort of pulled out of a lesson for 5 minutes to do a quick trek. Something they're used to is when we practice and when they go out for interventions and things,
It feels like normal
it'll
for
just
them. They
feel
won't
like
really
normal
know
for
it,
them.
will they? Yeah.
They'll just do their times table questions on an iPad. Like I know last year some of the children didn't even realise that it was the official check. They just thought they were practicing their times tables.
Brilliant. Okay. And then I suppose one last question for me. If a parent, because obviously, really, it's not an intent, it's not a high stakes test. It's a chance to gather the information of where they're at. But also, it would be really great for the children to be going into year five with that real confident access to number so that they can access the complex or more complex work that comes through. Now, for some parents, that might feel a little bit daunting if they're looking at their children doing the sound check on TTRS and seeing actually they're really struggling with it. What would you recommend to a parent who maybe has concerns about their child kind of picking up their times tables?
I'd say the first thing is I'd say Times Table Rockstars is such a great resource, and
So, kind of the more time they have on that, the better they'll do for
I
it.
think definitely. I think I know children last year in year four who, at the start of the year on their sound checks and in their practices were scoring in
Yeah.
single digits, and then by the end of the year they were hitting 25 out of 25, and I think a lot of that came from Times Tables Rockstars. It is a great resource. I think most schools in the country now use it. I think
Yeah.
there's a reason for it because it's engaging and it's effective at what it does. So I'd say they've got to log in, utilize it. But I think like alongside that, like I sort of suggested, again, maybe for children who aren't really that into the tablets or that, just spending those bursts of time, those 5 minutes of just practicing times tables. Just I think counting in multiples is a really great way to build confidence. Counting in twos, threes, four, fives, sixes, sevens. Just
You
is
can
it?
build it up as well.
Yeah,
You can have, as you say, because the fours rely on the twos. If they're not as confident with their fours, going back to those twos again can really help. And I think with all children who may potentially have a sort of higher level of need for support, we've always got yourself. They can come to us, maths
yeah,
lead. They can come and
definitely.
speak to class teachers, Miss Harrison in year four, or Miss Lindsay and Miss Hoy in year three. And obviously Miss Hoy's our Senko as well. So if you've got any specific concerns, she's always very happy to kind of have a chat and make sure that we're meeting all the children's needs as we go through.
I think as well, like, children who we can see that they are finding it a bit trickier, they might be struggling, or, that we notice they might have anxiety, we'll give them extra intervention, extra support in school as well, alongside what they get as part of the whole class.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, I think that's all of our questions that we've got through. I'd love to thank all the parents and family members who've joined us today. It's been lovely to have so many of you along. We are going to be putting the webinar online. So I can see someone who's just joining us now. We're just coming to an end, but don't worry, the webinar will be placed online. So I'm going to stop the recording there. And it was lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.